I just come up with something that I want to talk a little bit about today. You know, I've been thinking about what might precipitate the world accepting the Antichrist as the leader of the world. And what I came up with was World War III. Now, nobody wants to think about that, of course. That's something that is even too horrible to think about, but think about the condition of the world now. We have Russia fighting with Ukraine for what, 3 or 4 years now, something like that. And here we are, the United States, in war with Iran. Who knows where that's going? We've been told by Trump several times that we've won the war, but yet Hegseth is still asking for $67 billion to keep fighting this war that we're allegedly have already won. So make that make sense. So anyway, I was thinking about, the implications of a world war and how that might lead us to accepting this guy that brings peace to the world. So I asked ChatGPT, what it might look like if there was a world war nowadays. And here's some of the things that it came up with. First of all, food shortages and higher prices. Since there's going to be fuel shortages because there's going to be a disruption in the flow of oil over in the, what's the name of that strait over there they keep fighting over? Anyway, in the ocean. Fuel supplies is going to be short, so naturally it's going to be affecting the truckers in the United States and other countries, that deliver the food. So there's going to be a food shortage. Supply chain disruptions, nothing can be delivered like it's supposed to. Inflation, economic instability, cyber attacks. I've noticed on the news recently, we've had several cyber attacks around the country of attacks on water supplies in different cities around the country. And some people think that might be Iran doing that. I don't know. So there's that. Travel would be much harder. There probably won't be any flights going from country to country during the World War. Everybody would be scared to get foreigners into the country. There'd be military mobilization all over. I think back on World War II, I wasn't alive then, but what I've heard about it and what I've read about it, a lot of the factories in the country had to switch over to a wartime production staff and capabilities. They started making parts for the military instead of what they normally might make, where they normally might make ball bearings for Pontiac or whatever. They might make ball bearings for military jeeps, military trucks, or something like that. So there's that, and then there's the psychological effects of war, of course. There's going to be a lot of traumatic events happening. Sometimes just watching the news can be traumatic for a lot of us. So, these are things that the world is going to be facing if there is a world war. And suppose that lasts for a couple of years. And then all of a sudden this political leader rises up and comes up with some kind of a peace plan that stops all the fighting. Of course, we would have to switch over to his way of doing things, which would be a one government for the whole world. So there wouldn't be any nations fighting each other. So that would happen. And he's going to be, according to the Bible, he's going to be a man that's greatly admired at first. He's going to be a charismatic leader. Everybody's going to love him. They're going to think he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. So, and that's the way it's going to be for the first 3.5 years of the tribulation. Along the middle point of the tribulation is when he's going to reveal his true colors. He's going to break these treaties that he has. And everything's really going to go crazy. And the false prophet's going to come up at that point, and he's going to insist that everybody worship the image of the beast, the Antichrist. So these kind of things is probably what's going to happen to set it all up. So once that gets set up, then all these horrible events that we read about in the book of Revelation about the end times, so that all goes into play then. So there's my thoughts on that. If you want to hear me do more videos about the end times, let me know in the comments. Or if you have suggestions on what you want to hear me talk about, Bible related, let me know. I'd love to hear from you. Have a great day.